Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and today I have Noam back on the show. Thank you so much. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Age, for having me again. It's so much fun being here again. My name is Noam. I'm a principal PM manager in Defender working on automatic attack disruption.
I remember this was also the topic I had you in the other episode, and I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about something in attack disruption today again. What is it? Tell me.
Oh, completely. So we're going to talk about something we are so excited about. We have been cooking this for quite some time, seeing it really saving customers in preview. And that is why we're so proud of announcing Predictive Shielding, which is one of our advancement and expansion to automatic attack disruption, bringing autonomous protection into truly the next level.
It's something we will go into the details in a moment. Let's quickly summarize for everyone attack disruption, because every time I talk about it, I'd say it's our favorite feature. That's why we are talking about it a lot. But it's also a really, really important functionality feature for our customers. What is it and why is it so important?
So completely. Automatic attack disruption is something that we released a few years ago. Really being able to do something that was pretty much impossible before that. Being able to say with over 99% confidence that there is an ongoing attack, identify with the same level of confidence what are the compromised assets, and then in machine speed, again, less than 3 minutes, being able to deploy the right actions. Some of them, by the way, are tailor-made for automatic attack disruption to be able to stop adversaries in their track. And seeing time and time again how this capability is able to stop attacks that were previously seen as unstoppable before that.
So until now, it was basically we saw an attacker doing lateral movement, doing something, and now we contained maybe the user, the device, the asset. What's coming now?
Oh, completely. So thus far, what we've done until this point is that we've been able to identify the compromised assets, whether contain them or disable them, really exactly as you've mentioned, stopping their ability to continue on performing malicious actions or do lateral movement. We've been able to trigger and be able to stop just shy of 500,000 attacks each and every month just based on automatic attack disruption. But at the same time, we're seeing adversaries today being significantly more aggressive than what they used to be and having a lot more monetary incentive to continue on trying to pivot and try and continue on their attack. Over 80% of the advanced attack that we're seeing today is what we call multi-wave attacks, meaning even if the adversary is being blocked once, they are trying to pivot, they would change their tactics, they would change the maneuver, they would change the assets that they are leveraging in order to inflict as much damage as possible and get their monetary incentive. Remember, our biggest issue is not the malware, it's not the specific asset. It's the adversaries themselves. We need to stop them. And in order to truly be able to stop them, we need to be able to focus where it is that they will be heading, what is the pivot that they are going to do, and be one step ahead of them, taking the right hardening actions before they have actually done anything. In a sense, and that is just one of the many cool things about predictive shielding, is really breaking that traditional notion of prove maliciousness and only then act, to be in a point where we are actually able to predict where the adversary is heading and harden that even before that. Take actions on things that we seem to be compromised, not necessarily doing something malicious, and reduce significantly the paths on the graph that the adversaries can actually take in order to create impact.
I want to actually talk about the graph. When we show incidents, we love the graph. But what is the graph? Like, in your words, if you need to explain someone the value of that graph, please.
Sure thing. So the graph is really our fundamental layer of data that enables to tell a true story around your environment, our customer's environment. What are the different lateral movement paths that are available there? Where the adversary might be going? What are the high value assets or the critical asset the adversary will try to get to? What is the blast radius and what are the choke points that enable them? Remember, adversaries think in graph, they do reconnaissance in order to create their graph, and if they have a better picture and a better graph of the environment than we do, we are in a very bad situation. Our ability to take that pre-breach notion, which used to be a fully like, hey, this is a pre-breach thing kind of thing. Before the attack, I want to harden things, and taking that to a place where we can actually leverage that in the post-breach realm, truly creating a continuum between pre and post-breach, leveraging the graph to understand, hey, now I know where the adversary is currently. I can understand leveraging that graph, leveraging that picture of all of the different attack paths, where they might be heading, what are the critical assets that they are aiming for, what are the choke points that they have to go through. We're actually now able to take the right actions to stop them from doing so, even before they have actually done that.
So, I mean, we can't share the secret sauce, but I would like to understand, how are we predicting? I mean, there is a big enterprise environment, and then we see an attacker leveraging or like misusing an identity. But now, how do we know where it's going and what action we need to do?
Sure thing. So as you mentioned, without going into each and every technicality, I think there are four main secret sauces that really enable us to do predictive shielding. One is the fact that we have the broadest, largest threat intelligence out there. Microsoft is the largest threat intelligence vendor out there. We have the most deep and most extended data out there around what adversaries are doing, what are the techniques they are leveraging, what are the mechanisms, what is coming next out there in the wild. Secondly, exactly as you mentioned earlier, Ike, is the graph. The fact that we have that depth of data across our customer base to be able to articulate to ourselves across that data layer, what are the different attack vectors, what are the different lateral movement paths, what is open there, right? What is even possible is a monumental construct that we are building for each one of our customers. Thirdly, is the fact that we can actually connect the dot. That is something that we had the disruption. We have through our amazing incident construct in the product to be able to connect the dots, fully understand what the adversary has done, not only saying again, hey, here's the full length of the graph, but even specifically in that, what specific path is the adversary currently going through? Where are they? And the fact that we now can say with over 99% confidence that that is really them doing something malicious. And fourthly, is the fact that, yeah, we could have just taken off the shelf capabilities and just plugged them in disruption. We will probably do that at times. But what is really cool is that we've created tailor-made capabilities for predictive shielding, right? We aim to be able to harden your environment. But one key thing that we've heard from customers is that there's a lot of things that are really crucial to be hardened during an attack, but are really difficult to harden 24/7, 365 days a year before the attack began. And all of a sudden, when we sort out what exactly do we need to harden, we figure out that there are things that are not out there, that are not possible for somebody to simply config or change or harden. So we had to create our own. And we had those tailor-made capabilities just for predictive shielding. And we're going to talk about some of those later on.
So, but this brings a question to me. So, before an attack disruption, basically, we saw misuse of a user and we disabled the user. Now, with predictive shielding, are we still disabling the user, but also do something ahead of the graph? Or are we saying, no, let the user be doing whatever they want to do, but we don't let them go to the crown jewels?
So that is where the synergetic impact is really crucial. We are doing both. We're identify those compromised assets and containing or disabling them, but at the same time traversing over the graph, we're able to do two really important things. One, again, as I mentioned, break that notion around prove maliciousness, then act. We can pivot over the graph, identify what other assets are likely already compromised even before doing anything malicious, and take actions against them as well. And secondly, leverage a graph. We can now understand what are the probable or possible future attack paths and choke points the adversary will take and be able to harden those specifically. Again, reducing the likelihood of the attacker to be able to progress, thinking one step ahead. In a sense, you can say we're thinking as if we were the adversaries, what we would have done, and then harden that specifically. Just in time, it's still with over 99% confidence. We're not reducing the confidence and doing it where it is needed. The cool thing again is that we're taking the actions where the attack path leads us. So again, let's take an example. Let's say you're a customer and the adversary is currently, let's say, in domain A, right? There is no current risk for domain B. There is no reason for us to do anything in domain B or harden anything in domain B because the graph doesn't tell us there's any risk for domain B. So we are actually able to granularly and targetedly harden only those assets that reside in where the graph tells us, while doing nothing and change nothing on those other devices and assets across your environment. Again, pinpointing it based on the graph as our compass to be able to say where it is that we need to harden, what it is that we need to harden, and we'll talk about later on, also be able to later tell you what we've hardened and how it actually been able to give you more information around what the adversary was trying to do. Again, completing that cycle around autonomous protection and later investigation.
Of course, I always hope that nobody ever will see it, so they don't have an attack. But I want to see it. So let's jump into a demo.
So right before we jump into the demo, I'll say one key thing that is really, really, really cool for us around the predictive shielding is that usually when we're creating new capabilities, when we start rolling them out, one key thing naturally is that while we roll them out, we want to see them working, we want to see them properly facilitating, we want to get feedback from our customer. The thing here, which was really cool, is even during our preview stage, we've seen these specific capabilities stopping real attacks, blocking adversaries, saving customers from some of the most advanced adversaries out there. And that is why we were so excited, so amped up from really announcing this in the latest Ignite and now continue on the rollout to our entire customer base.
Yeah, so then last question before we go into the demo. What was the customer feedback? When they see, wow, this is a preview feature and it actually really saved an attack going on. Like, tell me, what was the response? What
So,
was the
naturally the first instinct comment is like, whoosh, like, but I think the second one was very much around amazement, like on the fact that this thing really operates, does what it is that we're saying that it does, and stopping adversaries on things that no matter how good your SOC is, the likelihood of a manual operated SOC analyst to be able to do these kind of actions in this time frame is simply not feasible. So I think for the vast majority of things, it's just them telling us, hey, we want more of this. And that is why we're continuously iterating. And I do hope, Heike, they will, either myself or some other people from my team will get to join this show in a few months, showing what else we are cooking in predictive shielding, because there are very, very exciting things coming up.
Oh, I can't wait. But now let's have a look at today's demo.
Awesome. Now, let's walk through a real scenario. One that could have happened over a weekend when most teams are off and when, very frankly, most attacks occur. A hands-on keyboard attacker gain access and starting operate inside the environment. But before they could get far, automatic attack disruption kicked in, instantly containing the compromised user. But it didn't stop there, and predictive shielding took it further. It didn't just react, it actually anticipated the attacker's next steps and proactively hardened the environment. So let's start by playing back the attack story. The first sign of compromise is an anonymous remote connection from an external IP into a domain controller using a privileged account. Now, Defender immediately detects the attacker trying to create a new privileged account. I will say a classic persistent move. And first, within seconds, as you mentioned earlier, Ike, attack disruption contains the users, blocking lateral movement across the organization. But Defender doesn't stop there. And now it's predictive shielding time. In this case, the prediction starts with the power of the extensive TI Defender holds. This type of account creation is known persistent techniques from the Cactus ransomware group. Defender recognizes this pattern and automatically correlates the deep knowledge about the Cactus adversary into the prediction model. Defender now actually predicts that the typical next move for this actor is rebooting the device into safe mode to disable security controls. And it raises an alert reflecting this risk along with context and reasoning. The Frapp Analytics profile you can see here correlated into the incident expands on this context, providing a full review of the adversary behaviors and known techniques. It is also linked to details overview of the techniques used in this safe mode reboot specifically. So let's get back into the incident and see how predictive shielding uses this knowledge to stay ahead of the attacker. Now, here we're seeing a new type of alert generated by Defender, a predictive shielding alert. You can identify it by predictive shielding tag there. Defender doesn't just show what already happened, it highlights what is at risk next. And if we have open here, for instance, the attack surface map, you'll see how Defender figures that out. It uses exposure data and the environment topology to calculate the blast radius. So based on this activity chain and the exposure graph, Defender has determined the devices joined to this domain are at risk of being rebooted into safe mode to disable security control. Well, now, naturally, Ike, we could have stopped with prediction, right? Even just this alert alone is super valuable, raising an alert to the SOC, but it will be significantly too late for your team to react if we only raise an alert. But, and this is again where it's really cool, we don't. We don't stop with the alert. We will now take autonomous actions to actually shield the organization, from any further damage. Now, I can take a look because this is where it gets really cool and where the real value of prediction shielding comes. Defender provides full visibility to all disrupt and predictive shielding hardening actions that were applied. In this case, when we deep dive, we see that Defender was able to harden the paths and prevent the device from rebooting into safe mode. Now, it's worth really pausing here for a second. This isn't the standard off-the-shelf control. Predictive shielding controls are one-of-a-kind hardening enforcement abilities that were uniquely developed by Microsoft to effectively protect assets at risk against some of the most sophisticated attack techniques. In this case, just in the time of the attack and with less than 3 minutes. Now tell me, which SOC can actually take a manual action in less than 3 minutes? And without any additional prerequisites, you don't need to turn anything on. Nothing. There's no knob, there's no configuration. You just have it out of the box. Defender blocked any ability for the attacker to boot the devices into safe mode and get the security stack planned. And beyond that, we applied this hardening just to the devices that we were able to map at risk based on the graph, exactly as I mentioned earlier, just where it is actually needed. And at this point, shielding is effective without carrying any unneeded burden of friction across the organization.
So, Noam, I know this is not done yet, but I have a couple of questions here. So you showed earlier that threat analytics report of Storm 021 something. So predictive shielding or attack disruption no specific techniques and tactics, or is this now mapped to this specific threat actor and only responded because of that? Um, yeah, do you know what I mean?
So it's not hard coded. It's not deterministic in the sense that, oh, if it's only this group, we will take that action. But it's the fact that we have an additional signal in which you can actually calculate the next move, which is TI. TI is another mechanism in which we can actually leverage, other than other mechanisms we have, to try and identify what they're going to do next. And TI is an amazing one, because if we know a specific group, in this instance, the cactus group, has a love to move devices into safe mode as a technique, that is something we should imply. By the way, even if we don't know that they are like in full domain compromise stage, simply because we understand that they are in your organization, we understand that this is a likely next step on their behalf, we understand where they might be getting to, so we can just do that exactly there, just in time and just where it is actually needed.
So, and as of today, I think I looked at the documentation and there is 3, correct me if I'm wrong, actions that predictive shielding can do. There was something with GPO.
In the next, literally like the next click is gonna be GPO.
Okay.
And now that we've seen the hardening control applied, let's pivot back, Ike, if it's okay, into the incident to look at the protection impact itself. Here, in the alert timeline, we can see that our prediction was correct. The attacker did, in fact, attempt to reboot devices into safe mode, and that these attempts were completely blocked by Defender. Now, I'll say we're not done just yet. Defender continues tracking the attacker's activity, and predictive shielding engaged again here, anticipating the attacker's next move. This time, the attacker pivot to try and abuse group policy mechanism, GPO. They attempt to push modified security configuration, as you can see here, to tamper with the security stack in another way. But predictive shielding is one step ahead and have your back. It identifies the path the attacker is trying to use and protects the devices within that blast radius. Again, Heike, leveraging the graph. In this case, leveraging another unique hardening control in predictive shielding, temporarily pausing group policy propagation to those assets.
So why didn't we disable the user account?
So the fact in this case is that they had another account.
Okay.
They pivot into it. Something that we see, unfortunately. And this is a key superpower from predictive shielding. GPO is a core operational mechanism, and organizations worldwide depend on it. Like, I can ask time and time again customers, how many of you are willing to actually block GPO 24/7? Nobody will do that, because restricting GPO in peacetime based on security control is not something truly feasible. And attackers, they know it. They know it well, and they take advantage of it. And this is where predictive shielding really breaks that paradigm between pre and post breach. With the high fidelity signals of the attack and the graph-based prediction, defenders block GPO propagation just in time of the attack and just during the attack. At this point, if you know that there is a hands-on keyboard spreading your organization, you will now prioritize security, and the IT friction is temporarily less critical. And we're doing that in a precise, even surgical manner, not just by applying it only to devices at risk. And again, Heike, this is where it gets really cool and where our tailored capabilities come into play. But we are also doing it by blocking only new GPO policies and refraining from creating friction with running ones by your IT teams. The ability to block GPO encapsulates another unique point of predictive shielding, our deep OS integration. This control is only possible with Defender creating the innovative hardening ability without any tool integration and still keeping our 3 minutes go.
Wow.
And here's the outcome, Heike. The attacker attempts to use broad tampering technique to blind and disable the security stack were prevented. Predictive shielding had anticipated their move and was able to harden the environment ahead of time. Eventually, tampering never landed. Defender remained fully operational, and when the payload was launched, it actually blocked it immediately, preventing any impact. And this is what autonomous protection is really about: operating in the background, keeping your back safe. Now, I should say, Ike, that halting the attack isn't the end of it. Now comes some of the most critical work: being able to investigate, remediate, and prepare for the next time. Defender delivered with high fidelity optics and full visibility into what happened, which assets were affected, and exactly which attacker attempts were blocked. Instantly, you can see which devices has hardening policies applied and which didn't. How cool is that? You know where to expect changes. You can actually keep the IT help desk, IR, and leadership, everybody aligned. Everyone's on the same page. What was protected, what to monitor, and where follow up is actually needed. You can drill down to see the actual block events, know exactly which malicious activities were stopped and on which devices. No more guessing, no more chasing shadows, concrete evidence at your fingertips at advanced hunting for you to be able to leverage. You can see here, for example, Heike, the exact files or configuration the attacker tried to deploy and were blocked by predictive shielding. You know precisely what was blocked, what the attacker tried to change, and where, to validate and, if needed, to remediate afterwards. Instead of wondering and try to figure out what has happened, you have a clear, actionable map of what was protected and what to review.
Wow. Noam, I need to digest all of this now. So this was a lot. um, and I know in general, attack disruption is on by default. So I would assume predictive shielding is part of it. Or do they need to allow something? Do they need to turn on some, yes, I allow attack disruption to predict and do something?
No configuration, no toggle. It's simply on by default.
Okay. And then you also mentioned they don't need anything, but of course they need the Defender products that are responsible to do something. I mean, is it we need Defender for endpoint? Do we need exposure management for the graph? Is there anything that they need in order for that to work as 100% and not 70 and the rest is not covered?
Amazing. So for everything that we show today, all you need is to have Microsoft Defender for endpoint deployed. Naturally, as we expand predictive shielding, we'll work across workloads, across capabilities, first and third party alike. But for everything I showed today, all you need to have is Microsoft Defender for endpoint deployed, and you have everything here.
Wow. So this is a lot, and I guess I will have to go back and watch the demo again because it's so rich in information. And of course, you look at the screen, I hear you talking. I guess everybody else there as well. But from you, Noam, before we close this episode, any call to action, any last words from you to our audience?
So I think more than anything else, we would love to hear your feedback. We would love to hear both your love and your desire to have more of this. Tell us what it is that you think. Tell us what more is needed. Tell us where more we can bring even more autonomous, amazing protection at your fingertips. Just tell us, keep us in the loop. And again, thank you for continuing on being such a valuable partner with us.
And to add here, of course, customers, partners, whoever is watching the video, yes, you can use the comment function in YouTube, but I suggest you reach out to our CCP community if you're not already part of it. aka.ms/join-ccp if you would like to become part of it, and then also become part of our early previews and design partners and get your feedback to us. And that's it. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, and I hope I'll see you all again in the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye.